Today we continue on with our NHL season previews. We're looking at the Atlantic Division and the Florida Panthers today. What should we expect from the Panthers in the 22-23 season? Will they still be able to be at the top of the Atlantic? We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're continuing on with our season previews and looking at the Florida Panthers. First, we're going to do a quick 21-22 recap, take a look at some recent playoff history, and look at how this team has changed over the course of the offseason. The Panthers have had substantial change this year, and we're going to go through all those and take a look at their prospect system, see if there's any players that can really jump in and have an impact this year, and then take a look at their projected lineup and talk about how they're going to do this year. So first up, let's recap last season where they were first in the Atlantic Division and a record-setting season for this franchise. The Panthers' best ever regular season, 122 points with a record of 58, 18, and 6. They were the highest scoring team in the NHL with 340 goals while allowing 246, which was 13th best. So not bad defensively either. The power play was phenomenal, 24.4, which was surprisingly 5th best in the NHL. Most seasons that would be higher. 79.5% PK for 16th best, so average. But still, overall, they had a pretty solid season. Now, unfortunately, they lost in the second round of the playoffs after having this record-setting regular season against their state rival, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Of course, they've made the playoffs now for the past 2 years, but they have not won a series up until last year. That was the first series they won in the first round against the Capitals since 1996. So this fan base was starving for a long time for a playoff series victory. They had very limited playoff action period, and then when they've had it, most of the time it's been first round exits, except for last year. So that was good to see them get over that hump. But of course, because of how they lost to Tampa, that ended up costing head coach Andrew Brunette his job. They have a new head coach now. Longtime NHL veteran coach Paul Maurice comes in for his first season. Of course, last year they started the year with coach Joe Quenneville. And then, of course, not long into the year was when a lot of the information came forth in the Kyle Beach investigation. Coach Quenneville was out of a job. Andrew Brunette, who was on his staff, takes over. Had a real solid year. Faced a lot of adversity in a surprising situation he didn't expect to be in. But ultimately, I think Bill Zito, the GM, didn't like how things were coached in the playoffs, ultimately against Tampa especially, and wanted somebody with more experience. So Paul Maurice steps in for his first season. Now let's take a look at how this team has changed. The Florida Panthers, of course, were involved in one of the biggest blockbuster trades we've probably seen in the last decade. And let's start with key subtractions. Who's no longer a Florida Panther? Well, longtime Panther Jonathan Huberdeau tops that list. Certainly a shocker to see him be traded, but it did happen. Of course, longtime Panther as well, Mackenzie Weegar went with him to the Calgary Flames. They ended up losing Mason Marchment in free agency. Of course, all of their deadline acquisitions like Claude Giroux, Frankie Vetrano, and Ben Sherratt, who they gave up a lot to get those three players, and they all left via free agency. I mean, I know some people will be like, oh, they weren't there that long. That's true, but look at what they gave up. They are not going to have a first-round pick, it feels like, forever now because of all these acquisitions, and they don't even have any of those players to show for it anymore. And, of course, longtime veteran Joe Thornton, who had signed a one-year deal, no longer with the franchise either. But who is now on the team replacing these guys? Well, of course, the big addition coming in from Calgary was Matthew Tkachuk. Of course, a superstar player, but that's certainly debatable right now. Is this team better or not with that big trade? We'll talk about that a little bit further here in the video. Of course, they also brought in a bunch of former Ottawa Senators. They seem to be fond of these Senator castaways, including Colin White, who was bought out. Rudy Balcers and Chris Tierney both go to the Florida Panthers via free agency. Mark Stahl comes down, as well as Nick Cousins. So if you take a look at who's not there, Huberdeau, Marchment, Weegar, Giroux, Sherratt, and this list of players here, the list of subtractions to me certainly looks like a much stronger group of players. So are they really a stronger team? Only time will tell here. As far as prospects go that could have an impact on this team, there's really not a lot. The Panther prospect list is a little bit not so deep. They have a few guys like Grigory Denisenko and Alexei Heponiemi, who's been in the system now for some time. They might see limited NHL action this year. It's hard to say, but it is possible. They did have a free agent come over from Europe. He's 23 years old, defenseman Kalle Schädelin. So he might see some action because his blue line is certainly not the best anymore. And Nathan Staios, who was an undrafted free agent out of the OHL from the Hamilton Bulldogs. Of course, the son of former NHLer Steve Staios gets signed as well. And he may see some action too. He probably will play in the American League. But given his pedigree, wouldn't be shocked if Staios did see at least limited NHL action. But what is this lineup going to look like? Well, your top line, that much we can say we know for sure, which is going to be Barkov, Verhaeghe, and Tkachuk. That's a pretty darn good first line. You take out Huberdeau, you put in Tkachuk. Yes, I mean, are they going to lose any offense there? No, they're not. Second line, you're looking at Bennett, Reinhart, and Balcers. Obviously, Balcers, to me, not really a top 6 forward. That's definitely a downgrade. You obviously don't have guys like Giroux there anymore. I know he was only there for a short time, but still no Giroux, no Mason Marchment. That's going to hurt a little bit. I don't know if Balcers can give you that same offense. Of course, Anthony Duclair is going to be out injured for the first probably 4 or 5 months of the year with an Achilles tear. So he obviously would play higher up in the lineup as well. So Balcers will eventually move down, likely. At least that would be my guess, as one Duclair comes back and is healthy. But it's certainly a downgrade to start the season. Your third line likely is going to be Colin White and Nick Cousins with Anton Lundell in the middle. Your fourth line, likely Listerinen with Hornqvist and Lomberg. Now, I don't know. Like, to me, like your bottom 6, I like Lundell. I really like Lundell. The rest, though, I don't know that you're going to get a ton of offense. So the secondary scoring, a little bit of a concern for the Florida Panthers. Without Duclair, without Marchment, they're just certainly not quite as deep as they were before. On the blue line, you're looking at a top pair likely of Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad. Probably have Brandon Montour in the second pair. He could play with Mark Stahl. And you likely see Gudis on the right side in the third pair, possibly with Lucas Carlson. Might be a little bit different, of course. Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight are your goaltenders. But that's not a really good-looking blue line. That's a big concern for me for a team trying to contend for a Stanley Cup. So to me, I think they're still going to be a really good team. I have no doubt about that. I think they'll probably still be a top 3 team in the Atlantic. I don't see them finishing first, though. I can see them maybe more likely like a third-place team. That would be more likely. I don't think like they'll still score a lot of goals, but I don't see them scoring at the same pace they did last year. To me, they're not going to be as potent offensively, and they're not going to be as strong defensively. Their defense, to me, last year was only average to slightly above average, and the blue line is not as good. So, obviously, that's a problem. I mean, I don't know. No Ben Sherratt, no Mackenzie Weegar. The left side especially, Forsling, Stahl, Carlson, that's not a great left side. So that's a concern. Now, Sergei Bobrovsky signed a mega contract and had a terrible first year in Florida. But every year he's been there since. Like, every year has been better than the one before it. He's going to need to continue to do that. Can he get better yet again and get another step closer back to Vezina Trophy winning Sergei Bobrovsky? They're going to need goaltending to be outstanding, because this blue line, to me, is a major weakness on this team. And I'm not even completely sure that they're going to be able to contend. Like, I don't know if they can really be a playoff team with success, that is, with that kind of a decor. That's a big red flag for me to pick the Florida Panthers to have any playoff success. I think they can play their way into a playoff spot, but getting success in the playoffs, not going to be easy. To me, this team did not get better with Matthew Tkachuk. I really like Matthew Tkachuk. He's an awesome player, but they gave up a lot to get him. That's a big price tag with Huberdeau and Weegar. Then on top of that, to lose Marchment in free agency and all of your deadline acquisitions and not come back and all that draft currency is out the window, that's a big loss. And I just don't know that. Look at how they lost against Tampa with Huberdeau, Weegar, Marchment, Giroux, Vetrano, Sherratt in the lineup, and they still lost, and lost pretty handsomely to that against the Lightning. This team on paper doesn't look anywhere near it. So, I don't know. I don't have much confidence. They will likely make changes as the year goes on, and we'll see how things go. But let me know what your thoughts are. Are you as down on Florida as I am, or do you think they're going to be a real top team again? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We'll talk about it further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.